Hi guys, I'm Ghost Jones and welcome back to the Ghost Jones YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and that is a book review. I'm going to be reviewing Monyetta Shaw's newest book, Keep It Classy. But before we get into the book and my opinions and thoughts on it, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a background on Monyetta and this book. Let's go. Monyetta is from Shreveport, Louisiana. She graduated from Louisiana Tech with a bachelor's degree in psychology. I think when she was younger, she was on a Shreveport radio show called The Daddy Rose Show. Years later, she went on to date Neo, and they were engaged, and they had 2 children together, Madeline Grace and Mason Evan, which the name for her company where she does artist development and management as well as publishing is derived from the Evan Grace Group. And she's also written a total of 3 books. So Keep It Classy is her 3rd book. She also wrote Bigger Than Me and The Adventures of Maddie. So I was invited to Monyetta's book signing, and I got to personally meet Monyetta, of course. And Monyetta signed my book, and she wrote like a super sweet message in here. And it just basically says, thanks so much for your support. Monyetta is really just a sweet girl. Like, I want to say I love her, but I don't know her like that. When we loved each other's outfits, she loved my hair. I was just kind of like, it felt like I was just really talking to my homegirl, but all of that is beside the point. So Keep It Classy is about co-parenting, which I am not a parent, but I did grow up in a single parent household. As I continued to read the book, I kind of realized that it's not only for people who are going through a situation where they maybe get a divorce or they may have to co-parent, but it kind of gave me a couple tips on how to handle a breakup. Like, this book is kind of universal. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Monyetta helped me level up. Like, I'm just like, okay, girl, you know what? I'm gonna keep it classy. You taught me how to keep it classy. In the beginning, I was gonna do like this really organized piece where we broke down the book chapter by chapter, but being that I grew up in a single parent household and I actually watched my parents get a divorce, I'm just gonna like freeball it and tell you guys how it really feels and how much of what Monyetta wrote is accurate. In the beginning of the book, she talks about how everyone goes through like that honeymoon stage where they can't get enough of each other, like they're just so in love, and then how you go from like that moment to y'all breaking up and you're like questioning like, was this even real? Basically. And she answers that question for me because honestly, when I go through breakups, I think those same things. I feel those same things. Like, was that really how I felt? And she basically tells you like, yeah, you guys had those feelings, but you know, humans, we change. Our minds change all the time. Our interests are fluid. We're gonna go one way and then it's gonna be a whole nother way. Like, we're always evolving. I did appreciate that. Like, that kind of validated a lot for me. I don't know about you guys, but I have been in relationships where I felt like I was in love. And I'm like, okay, if I love this person and we feel as though we're in love, then why can't we get it together? Then she also talks about how you present the divorce to your children, how you do it somewhere private, like tell them all together. Going through a divorce can cause a lot of distress in children and how we no longer feel secure. And honestly, all of those feelings are things that I felt when my parents first got divorced. I was confused, I was distressed, I had so many unanswered questions. I didn't know what was happening. I'm like, why am I leaving my dad? Where's me and my sister going? Like when I finally realized that like my parents were getting a divorce, I blamed myself, mainly because I thought that I was a bad child, and then I also thought like, why didn't I do anything to save the relationship? So I love how she acknowledges that in those feelings. I felt like when I was younger, like everybody was talking to me about things, but they were never really talking to me about how I felt about this situation. I think that because everybody's kind of like so wrapped up in themselves and like trying to make sure that you guys are like safe, they don't worry about if you're like mentally safe. So that brings me into talking about another thing that she discusses, which is like your child's mental health when they're going through this divorce. When parents divorce, everybody is divorcing in a sense. Like, we are all splitting up. Yes, your parents can have joint custody, but it's really like a divide because there's always gonna be one parent that you stay with more than the other. And I think that's another reason why, like, as a child, you start to like take some of the blame and you take on some of the responsibility of the divorce, because when they're going back and forth in court, like, they ask you, well, which parent do you want to stay with? She even talks about how to like spot when your child is emotionally distressed. So like, are they not eating their favorite foods? Are they not participating in their activities? More withdrawn from the family or just from friends or, you know, from people, period. Literally all of the things that she listed is exactly everything that I experienced when I was living in that moment. And then she touches on that point where she suggests family counseling. I have been through that. Did it really help? I think yes, because I got to have someone as a soundboard for me, just because I felt like my voice wasn't that important because I wasn't an adult. So it was a nice way for me to express myself. Now, did my mother take me seriously when we were in counseling? That is like a whole nother story for a whole nother time. We're not even gonna get into that. We're just gonna keep it on Monyetta. So in the next chapter, Monyetta talks about strong men versus broken men, which was one of my favorite chapters. So she opens it up with saying how a lot of the decisions that we make and the way that we respond to certain situations is kind of based off of how we were raised. Showing your feelings is a sign of weakness in a male, and how we equate showing our feelings and being weak to being a woman. And she just says, like, let your boys express themselves, let them cry, let them be joyful, let them be happy, let them be sad. And I think that's very important. And she also talks about how men equate manhood with physical strength and hiding vulnerability, which is super true. Like, I literally do not know who, where, what, when, and why. In our community, we feel as though men showing their feelings is something bad. And if we ever want to get better in this community, we have to kind of let that go. All humans have feelings. There is no human on this planet that doesn't have feelings. She also drops off this little pointer, and she says that maybe you should communicate digitally instead of talking face to face, or maybe talking over the phone, which is actually a pretty good idea. Like, if you want to avoid conflict with somebody, just shoot them a text, you know, like write them on the internet or something. Another chapter that I really liked in the book was the chapter about self-awareness. So in this chapter, she talks about how you just have to accept that your partner has moved on and they have found someone else who makes them happy. She also highlights that the only thing constant in life is change. Overall, the one piece that I did like was how she talks about how fear can soil a relationship, and about how people hold on to empty and dysfunctional relationships, how that stifles your growth. You can't find your true happiness if you're not willing to give up something and move on to the next big thing. And basically, Monyetta believes that women are the epicenter of a family, which is pretty true, in that self-neglect is held in higher esteem than self-care, and how we all need to take care of ourselves first. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not being selfish. That's just being a human. There's nothing wrong with taking care of yourself and wanting to better yourself before you help others, because if you can't help yourself, how can you help someone else? I mean, in And then she hints over at how you can't micromanage your ex's time with their child. You can't be calling them every 5 and 10 minutes. You shouldn't be telling them what they can and can't eat while they're there. You know, just let them breathe. Let them have that time together. Like, each parent parents differently. And I am thankful to say that my mom never micromanaged my father. I'm pretty sure that she wished that she did. A lot of times we ate McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which I know she probably was not happy about. And in her final chapter, Monyetta talks about how it does take a village to raise a child. When you're going through trying times like these, you need to find a routine, like a happy and healthy routine, to focus on yourself, like surround yourself with family and love and, you know, friends who really care about you. That's when you need it the most. And it kind of just keeps you occupied, keeps you busy, keeps you from thinking about the negative, which I believe is so true. As long as you have those people around, they can also help in the co-parenting process and in the blending process. And, you know, maybe they be the ones that pick up your kids from school sometimes, or, you know, your kids get to spend some time with their aunts and their uncles. She talks about how she's so grateful for Neo's mom, Miss Lorraine, and his sister Nicole, and how sometimes Nicole will keep the kids for the weekend, and it's good for the kids because they get to see their cousin, they get to see their family members. That was one of the more important things when my parents were going through a divorce. Like, I wanted to also spend some time with my family. My mom's friends would pick me up, like my dad's friends would pick me up. I would spend time with them, you know, I would hang out with their children. It's just a really good way to kind of keep your mind off of things. So my final thoughts on the book are, I love it. The book is kind of multi-purpose. Like, the next time that I'm going through a traumatic event, I'm not even gonna say traumatic, I'm just going through trying times. Like, I may have to pop this book open and read it and see, you know, what did Monyetta do? It just overall gave me a new perspective and a new outlook on life, especially just when negative situations come your way. I think that was the overall message. You know, just kind of taking things for what they are and trying to make the best of them and using all of the resources that you can. Sometimes you do need those outside people to help you. You can find her book on Monyettashaw.com. It's on Amazon. The book is about $25 and it's 100 pages, so it's a quick read, but it's well worth it. Like, I can definitely see myself rereading it in the future. But that's all that I have for you guys today. I will see you all later, and like always, the links to all of my social media will be in the description box below, and I will catch you all later. Bye.